Hey everybody, I just feel like standing up for once while I talk into a quick little intro. So this is a lengthy tutorial, but don't skip it because I had a problem that I'm going to share the results with you and how I fixed it. There's two things going on here. I've got an if statement up here for displaying collection lists or anything. If you're going to just loop through, using either an object type or a compare statement. There's a big difference. I'm going to go over everything. I'll show you my add-on. You got to go check out Course's channel and do display collection list tutorial 1, 2, and 3. And then you can follow along with the first thing I show you. But I'm going to show you how to make an add-on that has not only a two types of objects displayed, but it will loop through every object in the view layer and then give you properties for each one. We'll go ahead and create that add-on. I'm very tired in this tutorial, but so just kind of bear with me. But let's go check that thing out. Let's get started. Mr. Steve back. I've got a quick Serpens 3 tutorial, and I'm going to show you something that I found as a workaround to iterate through objects inside of Serpens when you're changing the type that you want to store of a property. Okay, so you're storing properties, and I got a little collection, display collection list here is tied to a collection. Group properties is tied to the label and the sub collection, and then all that tied into objects. And I have a plethora of objects in here that are stored. There's a basic one I haven't really used yet. I'm gonna drop that one out. But anyways, I ran into a problem in trying to display these with the if-else when I want to switch from a light to a mesh to store the properties. And so in the display collection list, which I've got somewhere over here, and don't forget to label these things, guys, or you're going to really be out. You can make a little frame there. Control J makes the frame. Hit Control J, and it'll make a nice little frame around there. You can press N. Go to node, select color, pick a color, pick what you want to say hi, whatever, bring up the label size so you can see it from afar. Okay, that is how you would do that. Make sure that's dropped back in there. Back to Serpens, there we go. And as I said, make sure you've got plenty of save points. I'm just kind of playing around with this switch here, and I have all these different camera data outputs for this thing. But what's going on in the background? Let's see. I am looping through and execute here for my sub collection. And if you go through all three of Course's tutorials, 1, 2, and 3, and the third one obviously is going to be the kicker. It's going to be the ringer. It's a very good tutorial. Then you'll get to this point where you can create portals, and if you don't know how to do a portal, it's actually pretty simple. I think I might be just about ready to crash. Let's see what happens here. Can't play with these portals too much. So Shift A S portal, and color code these. So if I just put this here, I'll be able to connect the output, whatever I'm outputting. This will be a property, and I will output a property. Now from here, you just Shift D this, and then click Output, and make sure that you select property before you connect this to anything. Otherwise, you're going to crash. And now I could literally change all these green ones with the pink one, or I could just change the color to a nice bright orange, something like that. It's going to change on all the nodes. And if you haven't picked it up yet and you're not in the Discord, get the Serpens Node Wrangler, because this thing is pretty sick. It's able now. I just go that to Alt and right mouse, and I could just connect these bad boys up like that. And for example, if I want to hit Shift S, I can stretch the node out to whatever size I want. And you've got to hold the S down, so don't let go. Shift S, and I think it's just, you don't have to select it. It's just when you're over that node. Yeah. and then you can just let go of it wherever it is, and that will be the size of it. So it's very good, very fun, and go ahead and reconnect that, and reconnect this one. Man, it's really slow. I'm gonna have to figure out why it's being like that. Okay, there we go. So there's a couple of tips for you, and now that we've got this, you would grab that portal, drop in the is object type, and then you can switch the is object type effectively to whatever you need. So that now says, hey, if this object is true, then I need you to set the property of color, energy, yeah, color and energy, because if you go in and select a light, this is actually energy, not power, but it says power. So every single light's going to have these two properties without a doubt. And they're also going to have the cast, shadow, multiple importance, the shadow, and portal. And so I dumped all those in here as well. So anytime it's a light, any light, doesn't matter, I'm going to say, hey, check the loop, see if it's a light. If it is, do all this stuff. And then I can kind of end it here. And I then do another check. And I just use a basic compare with a string, but the data type, which is the one that comes from context. So if I went back to data here and I hit type, I would grab this type. And then I could come out here, Shift V, drop this in, and connect that to the portal outputs. So that way, and switch this to property. So that way, it's checking the type according to the loop. And that was a big problem. I was not doing that, and therefore it was causing a lot of grief. And then if it's a spot, then boom, do all this stuff. And if that is false, we come down here and check to see, is this a sun? If it's a sun, do this stuff. Go to area. I check to see if this is an area. It's tagged into the portal, which is tagged into the loop. Now this is a different one. If you do the collection list stuffs, then you'll see this is actually coming out of the pointer. This is the pointer right here, and that's why this works. And so, hey, check if this is an area. All the pointer properties are attached here. Now this is checking the loop, yada, 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 and so on. So you see what's going on here. And then I ran into a problem. The problem was I was trying to use this type compare, which I don't have connected here, to switch over and say, hey, is this a camera? But instead, I grabbed the pointer output from collection list 3 tutorial from Corza, say is object type camera, check the loop for the pointers to the objects, and if it is true, then store all the camera properties. And then I did the same thing down here, only up here we are setting the property. If you can see what's actually being done, we're setting the property and we're using the value of the Serpens property of whatever you're trying to set. And then when I came down here, it's the opposite. Let me show you. You'll run into all this. It won't be confusing if you do the tutorial. And then you're setting the Serpens property with the value of the actual property. And then so on. So then down here also I said is object type according to that loop. A camera, that's true, do this. If it's false, don't do anything, because that was the last thing that was actually in my loop. But up here, it was is object type light. And then in that string, or rather in this line of code, you can then use the compare with a type, which they're all attached to the loops or to the pointer properties. String, it's a spot. Okay, if it's a spotlight, then let's do blend, spot size. Let's do all these different properties. All right, now if you hung out long enough for that, I'm actually going to go ahead and do a new file here. Let's get a visual scripting editor, click new, and I'm just going to be under Serpens here, visual scripting. And I always call this the main, no matter what. Make sure you got the right stuff going. So from here, I would just put in, say, a cube, point light, and a spotlight, just to keep it nice and simple. Let's grab a panel. We can point this to the end panel. We'll call it new loop. And now we've got new loop here. And we want to grab a loop for interface. And go ahead and connect that up. I'm going to grab any one of these objects, right click and get my context. I'm going to come over to the context view, go to view layer, go to objects, grab this collection. Before I do anything else, I have to excuse the moving of the screen there. Shift V always works nicely. Now we're going to loop through all of the objects in the scene, and we want to display whatever properties we have here. Why is this not connected? There we go. So that's why I love the node framework. It's super nice to work with. I'll switch this to property because I'm going to be displaying properties, and I'm already in this area, so I can grab the light, go to data for the spotlight. I mean, we can just grab a boolean. I'm going to shift V that over here. Just grab whatever I really want here. There's energy. So we can have the shadow soft size, which is on the spotlight, and it's on the point light, but it is not on the area light. Area light has the size property. I'm going to keep that in mind. And this is where this would come in handy right here. So we would grab a portal and tag this in, and that color is way too bright, don't like it. Go in here, then shift D that, turn that to an output, switch it to property. I'm going to create a save point here. I've got a trash folder where I just do all these tutorials. Let's just throw it in the trash when I'm done. And now I want to display the show cone, but only if interface. And let's just cut that out for now. Switch this to property. Let's tag that in. Whoops, get out of there. Awesome. Back to property, homie. There we go. I'm too fast with my mouse sometimes, and I think I'm doing something when I'm really not. And these will be the other properties that we will display shortly. But if is object type, all right. And I want the type to be a light. And I've got to tag that in to the loop, just like I was showing you. And so now if light is true, we're going to display this boolean right here, which is going to be show cone. And let's drag this fun stuff over. And so we can start dumping things into a column. We will put these in a column, and I'll actually throw this one down on my next line of code, if you will. So this will be underneath. I'll get a new display property because I'm too lazy to change the text. Switch this one to property. I'll Shift B this and connect it. And so now we're going to have the shadow soft size. And we've actually got 2 shadow soft size in here. If I change this one, it's going to change this one. This one's going to change this one, but we don't have a name. I didn't grab the name yet. Shame on me. Let's go back to Data Spotlight. Let's type in name. Doesn't matter. Grab any name. And let's see, where do I really want to put this? It's going to loop a name for everything. So I may change this. If I can type, my microphone's kind of like in my way, if you will, but I've just kind of allowed it. Let's drop in name, and now I can tag that in. And it's just going to say spot, spot, spot. We got to change this to property, and then tag that in. And now it's going to say point here and spot here. And then for each individual light that is going to be listed, to make it look nice, we could just throw it in a box. And so each one of these will now have a box around it, and the spotlight gets show cone. This one does not. And so now to say, hey, anything up here next to the shadow soft size, I would like to be on a row. So I'll grab a row node, dump that in, align, minimize it, don't need it in the way. Let's copy this, tag this in. I'll bring this other value for energy, switch it to property, tag it in, and now every one of these will obviously have a value tied to power or energy. But if I change this, it changes everything. All of these will change. But if I tag it in to the loop, they'll change individually, which is what we want. We want these values to work. Now it's interesting that the show cone only popped up under spotlight, but I haven't done any checks to say, hey, you know, down here on this one, show it. So I'm really not sure why it's doing that. But I will throw the check in here just to go ahead and make sure that that's right as far as code goes. And then I'll come back to Data Spotlight, clear that search, and I'll grab the type, copy it out, Shift V it in. Let's make active property. And now it's not going to show anything until we're done putting this code in. So let's put in a string. And boom. And now this is actually going to be spot. It's all caps. And if you do the BLID name, I'll show you that in a second actually. Let's tag this in because it's not showing up yet. That's fantastic. Maybe a couple of glitches with that. And this will now be the proper way through a type check to show, pun intended, the show cone. Okay, so now that's actually correct code-wise, and I will save that. Now, let's see. Node, so if you type in node, you get node ID name. And let's get a trigger, because this is how you debug. Let's grab a print node, and it's supposed to do this if you hit, select a node and hit Shift P, print. Yeah, okay, so the node wrangler is pretty banging. Yeah, this is nice. This is fabulous, actually. And so if you wanted to grab an ID name for something, I'm not sure that I actually want to do this, but I guess we can just do it just to show you. Well, actually, I was thinking about type is what I was actually thinking about, but this is also good. So if you're ever doing anything, you need to know the BLID name of something, and you could type in something like blah, 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 blah. Let's just go with the texture node itself, print that, and you would get texture node texture. Anyways, that's nice. That wasn't actually what I was trying to do. I'm trying to print out the type here, and so if you print this out, it'll just say point. So it comes out in capitals for that reason, and it's curious. I've never actually tied it into the loop and clicked it. That's funny. No, can't do that. Not the proper way to debug. But then again, anything you have for a type, you'll see that printed out back in there. And let's go back up here and we'll grab the all right, so my brains are not working at the moment. So now anytime I have one of these selected, I can run the trigger and it'll show spot. Now it's going to show point. And it should show nothing because it's the wrong type. But that's how you would do it. So you can find out what you have to type in right here for the string value. So you can debug in that manner, and that is very useful. Now, inside of this particular setup here, I would want to say, hey, check to see if it's a light. If it is not a light, it's false, right? Nothing is happening. It's just coming over here and then checking a type. So that's a totally different setup right here. So I'm just going to junction that. And I'll add a color to it because that's what I like to do. And we can label this as light props and use the and symbol and check if it is a light. And I can just bring that text up so I can see it somewhere in the viewport. And now that I've done this, I want to have another if statement. And so I'll just Shift D this, and it's kind of locked in. So just hit Alt P with it selected, and it will jump out for you. Now I want to connect the false here to the interface of the next one, and it should automatically do that. So it grabbed the false, and now I want to check is object type. All right. And I'm going to check to see if the object type now is going to be a camera. And I don't even have a camera in the scene, so I'm going to throw a camera in. I'll copy the context because I want to be able to get some properties for this. I also need the portal down here. I'll grab a copy of the portal, and every time you copy one, it does not have property already listed. So don't screw yourself up because you're going to need to have that property listed. Otherwise, you're going to crash. So now it's going to check and say, hey, if it's a camera, let's display the property for that. And now I'll come back to the Blend Data browser. Go back to the view layer, objects, grab the camera, come down to data camera. Just grab the most basic thing like lens. And then we'll go ahead and drop that in. Change this to property. Tag that into the loop. And we can also throw in a label here. I'll go up and grab the name property. I Control C that and Control V. I'll just tag in the name property and tie that into the loop. And now we got point. Now we got camera. And you can actually list these in that way. You can throw another box in if you want. And whenever it slides over like that, let's see, we would go to view, and the auto offset can be turned off. And I want to make sure that my insert sockets are available. So I can up a socket and add something in. And so now you can display all this stuff on here. And instead of new panel, this can just be loop for OBJs. There we go. And that looks pretty cool. And of course you can do a lot more. And I didn't mean to put my box right here. It's giving me a box line there, which doesn't make sense. So Alt left click and remove that, and then Alt P to unparent it from that. And let's see, where do I want the box? I'd say I would want it right here between the true and the label. There we go. It's nice. And now you can individualize some of this. And like each one of these is going to get its own little box and own little things in there. So you can now loop and display all the cameras in your scene, and each one will have an individual setting. So you can kind of see how these go. Pretty cool. And of course, you can do a lot more, like I was about to say and didn't. You can actually create a variable switch with a button. So if you put in a button and tag this in, or what I'm doing, I can do it the easy way. And this could actually be a fun little thing you can do. We'll just give it an icon and everything else. You can switch your object data types. And let's grab an operator for this button. Go to custom, grab operator, which is what this is. If you say hi there and hit enter, then that's going to say hi there. That's the button, but it doesn't show it here. That way you just kind of denote whatever is actually going on. I'll grab an if execute, and I want to actually tag that in. I'm going to go create a variable, and this one can just be called switch. It really doesn't matter. I'll switch this to Boolean. And for the true and false, let's see, I want it to get the variable, right? And the variable is going to be what switches this. And then I want to set the variable. Set it a couple times. Oops, there we go. Tag those in. That new Node Wrangler's just got me all worked up. It's fun. And for the button, let's grab an icon. Nope. A switch icon, and plug that bad boy in. Then you can choose. Let's see, what are we doing here? Got a camera, and then we've got lights. So we can choose, oopsie, come back here. Just light, no lights. Grab the light bulb, and we will iterate between these two. And I'm going to switch data. Come on, work with me. And it's going to be a Boolean. So I'm going to connect that to the Boolean, and it's going to switch. This button is going to switch these two based on a determination of the Boolean, which I don't have one of these marked. So I got to mark one of these, and it'll start working in a minute here. And the variable here is going to be controlling the switch. The get variable, and then these will be setting it. And the condition is the variable here, and the condition will be changed according to what data is going through it. And this is my favorite node of all time right now. The is object type. I almost have to type the whole thing in sometimes. And so I'll just copy this. It's not going to be a mesh. It's going to be either a light or it can be a camera. And I'll tag that in. And I want this to go through the loop as well. So I'm going to switch this to a property and tag these in. Create a nice little save point. And let's see, what else do I need to do here? No, I'm missing something. All right, so what I'll do, I want to grab all of this, move it off just a touch. I'm going to put another if statement right here. And the output of this switch data, which is dependent on these two data types, which will be switched by the if else statement here in the variable. I'm going to bring that in, tie that up right here. And let's see if I switch. So I've got an object here. All right, so I had my true and my false backwards. So true can't be true. False has to be true, if that makes any sense. So that way this is open. And boom, there we go. So now we're just displaying cameras, and now we're just displaying the lights. And just for the fun of it, I'm gonna actually recopy the context here. I can manage to find it without moving the screen again. I have to keep doing that. Getting annoying. All right, let's see. Yeah, bear with me, guys. I work like 60 hours a week, a regular job, and then I'm putting in like another 5 hours every single night. And like that 80. There we go. Select copy the context. We're like 80 hours a week. I'm so blitzed right now, but I love doing this stuff. I can't give it up. It's just the way it goes. So back to the view layer, back to objects, point, and I'm going to go back down to the data, and I want to get color, because that just makes the whole little micro add-on look so much better. And these are for the light checks, and everything will get the property. Let's see, if it's a light, do this, spot, do that. So where do I want to put this? Just put it right here. Switch it to property, tag it in, and tag it in, and there we go. So every single light will have that now, but only the show cone is here. And if there was some other specific thing, like you went over and you wanted spot size, see that actually says spot size. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to copy the context and once again reset this thing and go back to the view layer, back to objects. Now I want to grab spot. This is context sensitive. Put a data point light, and I'm just going to type in spot because that's what I saw when I hovered over this was actually the spot size, and I grabbed that. Notice it's a float value, and then we can come back and go down here to spot, and I would once again actually I just put this on a row and align it so it looks nice. Make sure to click the align. Yeah, I did. Let's go ahead and dupe this one. Kind of like starting a new line almost, if you will, like go from left to right like code would actually do. And so I'll just tag these bad boys in, grab spot size, switch it to property, tag it in, and now we have spot size as a represented property and show cone, which could actually be pretty cool. Anyways, if you guys chucked through that whole 32 minutes just to learn how to build a switch and understand that the object data type if statement is different from the compare type, because in one line of code you're comparing. If you're starting in a whole new line and you were to put, say, camera in like we did down here, and why is this all mixed up? That's super annoying. Then you would do this again. You wouldn't do a compare because it's not going to work. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for droning through this while I'm half awake. And I hope you got something out of it. Drop something in the comments. If you got a really cool add-on you guys are trying to make, you need help with it, you can, don't send me your blend file, obviously, if it's proprietary stuff. But if you're just kind of poking around and trying to figure out something, feel free to send me a blend file. I'll poke around on that, see what I can do. If not, I'll go into Discord and ask myself, because the actual creator and Corzin, all the big brains, are in there like every single day answering questions. And if you don't have the Discord, well, I don't know why, because it's like literally right here. You can just click this little button and say, hey, woo, invite Serpens Visual Scripting, 266 people online and almost 2,000 members. So if you can't find some help and get in here, I personally think you're crazy. And there you go. This is where it's at. Smash that subscribe, smash that like. I'll catch you guys in the next one.